My wife is mute. I've tried everything to cure her. Electroshock therapy, 7 chakra healing, even taking her to stand-up comedy so she could learn from them. Despite all this, she stubbornly refused to speak. But just as I was losing all hope, she finally spoke to confess her love to her ex-boyfriend. I'm Liu Ruyan. I want to confess my feelings to the man I love. Unable to sleep late at night, I turned on the radio, only to hear the voice of my wife, who suffers from mutism. Liu Ruyan's voice was as gentle as water. I've been married to Liu Ruyan for 3 years. For the first 2 years, we could barely manage a few words of communication. For the past 3 months, even when we were face to face, she couldn't utter a single syllable. She continued, "You and I haven't seen each other in 3 years. I'm really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. I miss your scent so much." The words coming from the radio were clearly not about me. "I love you, Cheng." Liu Ruyan's voice had never had so much emotion. The confession ended quickly, followed by the radio host's words of envy and praise. I sat on the edge of the bed, stunned for a long time. I was introduced to Liu Ruyan through a family-arranged marriage. I fell in love with her at first sight, but Liu Ruyan always had an icy demeanor. Only when we first met did her mother explain from the sidelines. "Please understand, Ruyan suffers from mutism." I called her mother. She asked, "It's so late, why aren't you asleep yet?" My throat tightened. A long silence made Liu Ruyan's mother panic a little. She asked, "What's wrong? Did Ruyan upset you? Did you know Yiting Cheng is back?" I froze, so I was the only one who didn't know. "I'm sorry, Ji Boda. 3 years ago, I didn't tell you the truth. Ruyan's mutism started when her ex-boyfriend, Yiting Cheng, left. I had no other choice but to drag her to blind dates. It's ridiculous, isn't it? The only daughter of the prestigious Liu family of Jiang province is actually mute. But Boda, don't worry. No matter what, I'll keep her in line." I don't remember how I hung up the phone, nor do I remember how I got through that long, lonely night. Back then, I researched a lot of information about this condition. The causes. I saw one that said experiencing a major external stimulus. I didn't understand. I probed around and asked a lot of questions, but none of the Liu family would tell me anything. Later, I tried all kinds of methods: psychological counseling, electroshock therapy, food therapy, 7 chakra healing. I even took Liu Ruyan to see stand-up comedy. When I was laughing so hard I was doubling over, she just sat there coldly, in silence. It wasn't until I proposed, and she seemed to make a huge decision, that she nodded and said a single word, "Okay." As happy as I was back then, that's how miserable I am now. Yeah, it's impossible for me to cure Liu Ruyan's mutism, because I'm not her medicine. Bitterness welled up in my heart. Even fear slowly crept in. Her medicine has returned. What about me? I silently clenched my relaxed hands. A stubborn feeling surged in my heart. Since Liu Ruyan doesn't love me, then there's no need for me to sink further into this marriage. She won't divorce me. What about me? In that case, I'll get a divorce. I'll completely step aside for Liu Ruyan and her medicine. After making up my mind, I cleaned myself up. 3 years ago, for Liu Ruyan, I gave up the opportunity to study medicine abroad. Maybe it's not too late now. An hour later, I headed out, planning to go to a nearby mall first, to buy myself some new clothes. "Sir, the suit you're trying on is the last one in stock. Would you like to purchase it?" I nodded, and took out my card to hand to the salesperson. "I'm so sorry. Another gentleman wants to pay a premium to buy this suit. Could you possibly part with it?" I followed the salesperson's gaze. It was a man wearing a dark blue suit. He was engaged in a lively conversation with the woman beside him, who was wearing red high heels. I stood up and took 2 steps forward, only to lock eyes with the woman. It was Liu Ruyan. Then that man must be Yiting Cheng. Liu Ruyan's face instantly became serious. She opened her mouth, but still couldn't speak. She looked at me blankly, then tapped her phone with her right index finger. I was incredibly familiar with this gesture. It meant communicating via phone. She wrote, "Why are you here? Are you following me? None of your business." 3 messages popped up in succession, but they left me completely disappointed. Cheng, beside her, pulled Liu Ruyan closer, and asked with a smile, Ruyan, who is this? A friend? He then took her hand, smiled and asked, can you ask him to let me have this suit? You know, I just got back to the country, and I need to buy some formal wear. Liu Ruyan smiled gently and warmly, patted her phone with her hand, and without even asking me, directly took out her card and handed it to the salesperson to pay. She said, it was a friend. That sentence was like a block of ice, giving me goosebumps all over. I could barely stand. So, my 3 years had only earned me the title of friend from Liu Ruyan. The lights in the mall crackled a bit. I instinctively looked up. The spotlight overhead suddenly came loose, followed by a loud bang, and then a sharp pain in my back. It all happened in an instant. I felt a dampness spreading beneath me. I touched it with trembling hands. My hands were covered in blood. The entire store instantly fell into chaos. Screams, the sound of phone calls, all buzzed in my ears. But when I looked up, I only saw Liu Ruyan kneeling beside Cheng, holding his hand tightly against her chest. Looking around frantically, she shouted, call an ambulance! Ambulance! I had never seen Liu Ruyan so panicked. A paramedic said, Miss, I'm sorry. Can we let this gentleman use the ambulance? The next one will be here soon. This gentleman's injuries are critical. The paramedics carefully moved my half-conscious body onto a stretcher, but a furious Liu Ruyan stopped them. She shook her head and said, take him. Then I felt a sudden shove, and I fell heavily from the stretcher onto the floor. The pain brought me back to full consciousness. I watched helplessly as Liu Ruyan carefully moved Cheng onto the stretcher. The paramedic said, Miss, he just sprained his wrist. It's not serious. You're wasting medical resources by doing this. Liu Ruyan replied, Cheng's hands are very important. He's a doctor. I was a little shocked. This was the longest sentence Liu Ruyan had spoken in 2 years. Unfortunately, not a single word was about me. After Liu Ruyan spoke, she immediately pushed everyone into the ambulance. I leaned against a nearby rack, gasping for air, but it seemed like every breath pulled at the wound on my back, only making the pain even worse. I don't know if the wound hurts more, or if my heart does. Didn't I give up being a doctor just for Liu Ruyan? But instead, he is the more important one. Then what the hell am I? I suddenly twitched my lips into a robotic smile. I'm just a friend. The pain made me pass out. The first thing I did when I woke up in the hospital was send Liu Ruyan a text. Let's get a divorce. Right after I hit send, Liu Ruyan actually pushed the door open and walked in, carrying 2 gift boxes. It was that brand we saw today. She put the boxes on the cabinet next to me and sat straight down on the chair by my bed. Liu Ruyan took out her phone. She must have seen the text I sent, but her face showed no emotion. The silence in the ward was suffocating. But my phone chimed. It was a message from Liu Ruyan. It said, you'll like this brand. I picked out 2 shirts that suit you. When you're discharged, I'll have the brand come to our house. You can buy out the whole store if you want. Cheng is a doctor. Hands are very important to a doctor. That's why I was so nervous. Don't be mad. I kept my head down, staring at the phone in front of me. Message after message came in. In an instant, tears blurred my vision again. I finally couldn't help but ask, you can talk to him. So why can't you talk to me? We're face to face, and you still have to text. Are you doing this on purpose? Is this the silent treatment? I looked up. I hadn't cried in a long time. But my face was already covered in tears. My voice choked up. Liu Ruyan's face remained as calm as water. I don't know how long we sat in silence. She just looked down again and typed, I'm sorry, I have mutism. Then, she took out a document from her pocket, handed it to me, and motioned for me to sign it. I took a look. It was the property transfer agreement for the house we live in. She wrote, this is compensation. A sudden, urgent ringtone rang out. Liu Ruyan's face tensed up. She quickly picked up her phone and answered. Her phone's soundproofing was very good. I couldn't hear who was on the other end, but the next second, Liu Ruyan immediately replied, I'll be right there. It was Cheng calling. I already knew the answer in my heart. I didn't hesitate anymore. I took out my phone and searched for the online court mini program. I filled out the petition step by step. Both parties' IDs, marriage certificate, and under proof of separation. I uploaded this property transfer agreement. I also selected refuse mediation. When I pressed the submit button, it felt like my heart let out a long sigh of relief. Countdown, 30 days, 3:00 p.m. at the real estate trading center. To transfer the property. Having stayed in the hospital for a week, I received a message from Liu Ruyan. For the past week, Liu Ruyan hadn't sent a single text or made a single call, nor had she come to visit. I was gradually getting used to being alone. I didn't show up until 3:30. But surprisingly, Liu Ruyan was already waiting in the lobby. She hates people being late more than anything. But right now, there wasn't a trace of impatience on her face. As soon as I arrived, a VIP counter staff member came up to greet us. Liu Ruyan even thoughtfully prepared a bouquet of flowers. Next to the white roses was a small velvet box. It looked like the newest watch. The staff member stepped forward to pull out a chair, but Liu Ruyan stopped him. She gestured that she would do it herself. This actually surprised me a bit. I hesitated for a moment and said, "There's really no need." A faint smile even appeared on Liu Ruyan's face. She squeezed my hand, seemingly using a lot of strength, and then squeezed out 2 words. "It's fine." A rare moment of gentleness and communication. The paperwork was done quickly. She wrote, "You go home first. I still have to work overtime." A strange feeling rose in my heart. Reaching its peak, I walked out the door, just got a cab, only to realize I'd forgotten the document folder. I had to go back to get it. I saw Liu Ruyan still standing in the lobby, holding an even bigger bouquet of roses than before, fiery red. Yiting Chang walked in through the front door. She immediately went to greet him. They hugged. Yiting Chang then effortlessly kissed her on the cheek. The guide said, "President Liu, this way to purchase the new property. Did you say you wanted to buy a manor-style estate after just transferring the apartment out of your name? You perfectly meet the purchase limit criteria. You can buy another one. Mr. Yi, watch your step." Liu Ruyan looped her arm through Yiting Chang's right arm. Both walked into the inner room with faces full of happiness. It was clearly July, but I had never felt so cold. So cold I couldn't even stand up. So cold that my back and forehead were covered in cold sweat. Turns out, I was the one being cut out. "Hello, Mr. G. Your wife, Miss Liu Ruyan, has not responded to the related requests of this lawsuit. We called her, it connected, but there was no response. We are processing it as a default agreement to the divorce request. Therefore, our court has processed your lawsuit request. Within 30 days of your submitted application, you have the option to revoke it. If you do not choose to revoke it, then your marriage will be dissolved." The court operator's voice was completely flat. This was probably just the simplest of the countless lawsuits they had to handle every day. I took a deep breath. Even with trembling hands, I replied, "Okay." I took a cab home. I silently looked around at everything. Then I started packing Liu Ruyan's things. I don't plan on moving out. Instead, I plan to clear out everything related to Liu Ruyan. "Are you Miss Liu's husband? There's a card for you." A knock on the door. It was the courier's voice. He just handed over an envelope. I shook my head and said, "I'm not Miss Liu's husband anymore." I took the card and suddenly spoke. The courier was taken aback and smiled awkwardly. I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten card. Looking at the handwriting, it was Liu Ruyan's. I opened it. Liu Ruyan's voice suddenly played from inside. "I miss you. I like you. I love you." Before I could even react, a hand with red nail polish instantly snatched the card right out of my hands. I stumbled and almost fell. I looked up. It was a dark-faced Liu Ruyan. The next second, my phone screen lit up. It was a message from her. It read, "Don't touch my things." Before I could respond, Liu Ruyan had already turned and headed downstairs. Liu Ruyan was going too far. I was furious. I chased after Liu Ruyan, running down the stairs. "I didn't go through your things. Why don't you respect me? I don't care about you, or what kind of relationship you have with your precious, Cheng. But you have no right to insult and humiliate me." A piercing screech rang out. It was the sound of tires skidding from slamming on the brakes. I just felt a massive pain in my side. I didn't see anything clearly. Before a car slammed heavily into my side, my whole body flew through the air. With a loud thud, I crashed hard onto the ground. I struggled to get up, only to see a sharp, sunglasses-wearing face magnifying in my vision. The shiny crocodile leather shoe he was wearing stepped right onto my right hand. Screams of pain escaped my throat in broken gasps. Before I blacked out, I saw Liu Ruyan running over from behind in a panic, a stark contrast to her icy demeanor earlier. She nervously grabbed Ying Cheng's hand, and only after examining it carefully did she let out a huge sigh of relief. Up until the moment I lost consciousness, she didn't even spare me a single glance. Mr. G, your VIP privileges at Liu's hospital have been completely revoked. I'm afraid you'll have to stay in a standard single room. Apologies, I just checked, and there are no single rooms either. You might have to wait in the hallway for your surgery. Also, the injury to your right palm is very serious. It requires immediate surgery. Otherwise, you might not be able to do fine motor tasks again. Hearing this, my groggy mind jolted awake. Liu, where is Liu Ruyan? Get my phone. I anxiously tried to sit up, to find my phone and contact her. Liu Ruyan, the number you have dialed is powered off. I furiously smashed my phone away. It made a loud bang. The sharp, lingering pain in my right hand kept eating away at my nerves. Mr. G, looking for President Liu. She took the new doctor, Ying Cheng, to the psychological counseling room for a session. She said Dr. Yi was startled, but President Liu ordered that no one is to disturb them. I covered my eyes with my left hand. Blood and tears mixed together, soaking my sleeves. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you so much, Liu Ruyan. I lingered in the hallway on a pain pump all night. Before I was finally scheduled for surgery, I felt pain in both my body and soul. A pain so deep I was almost numb to it. The doctor said, I'm sorry, Mr. G, because your right hand has a comminuted fracture. Combined with a delay in getting to surgery, some of the muscle tissue has necrosed. You probably won't be able to lift heavy objects in the future. The doctor gave a sympathetic, awkward smile. He said, I know you also studied medicine. I'm afraid you won't be able to hold a scalpel anymore. Do you want to discuss this with Miss Liu? The Liu family has always been a titan in the medical field. If you seek treatment abroad, there might still be a chance. I shook my head, looking at my heavily bandaged right hand. Right now, I couldn't even bend it. I said, could you help me buy a new phone? I need to call the police. Before I even finished my sentence, the door was kicked open with a bang. It was Liu Ruyan. Her originally ugly, tense expression, upon seeing me covered in bandages and hooked up to an IV, slightly softened. She opened her mouth, but still didn't say a word. So, she grabbed a pen and paper nearby. She wrote, last night, I didn't know you were hurt so badly. I'll contact foreign specialists for your right hand. I found it somewhat ridiculous. I said, no need. I'll take care of my own hand. Liu Ruyan frowned slightly. She seemed dissatisfied with my reaction. I wanted to bring up the divorce, but on second thought, it felt unnecessary. Liu Ruyan took a checkbook from her pocket, wrote down a number, and placed it on the table. She wrote, this is compensation for you. I hope you won't blame Cheng. Seeing the name, Ying Cheng, I started trembling uncontrollably. Get out. I don't want to see you again, Liu Ruyan. And, Yi, I will absolutely call the police. I picked up the check from the table and tore it in half, throwing it fiercely at Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan was stunned. It seemed she had never seen me lose my temper like this. She wrote, I won't let you hurt Cheng. Those words were like a thorn, pierced deeply into my heart. Impossible to pull out. Liu Ruyan left, leaving me trembling all over. 10 days left. In 10 days, we'll cut all ties completely. Mr. G, these are flowers from Miss Lo. Liu Ruyan had been sending flowers for 3 consecutive days. I didn't even look at them. I just gave a dry acknowledgement. I leaned on my crutches, simply packed up my things, and prepared to be discharged. Just as I pushed the door open, I realized that this hospital hallway was engulfed in a sea of flowers, exactly the same as the ones Liu Ruyan sent these past few days. All white roses, My heart skipped a beat. How did Liu Ruyan know I was being discharged today? But, a second later, the words of other patients in the hallway ruthlessly shattered my illusion. Someone said, President Liu Ruyan of the Liu Group is so sweet. To keep Dr. Yi from feeling awkward, she sent flowers to all the hospital rooms and completely redecorated the floor Dr. Yi is on. It probably costs tens of thousands every day. Rich people romance differently indeed. White roses, meant for a destined lover. So romantic. Shh, keep it down. President Liu's husband is also hospitalized here. I compose myself, leaning against the wall with a pale face, and let out a self-deprecating laugh. A sudden commotion rang out. I subconsciously peeked downstairs. Only then did I see the first-floor lobby, newly decorated with fiery red roses. Liu Ruyan and Yiding Cheng were standing right in the center. Liu Ruyan asked, Cheng, will you stay with me forever from now on? Liu Ruyan leaned in closely, and Yiding Cheng smiled and hugged her. Everyone around was clapping and congratulating them. Liu Ruyan kissed Yiding Cheng's lips. I, subconsciously touched my own lips. How long had it been since I last touched her? Just over 10 days and nights. How could I have lost count? By my side, Liu Ruyan seemed to have not only mutism, but also severe misophobia. At this moment, I just felt like the world was a massive, absurd theatrical stage. My ex-wife, who suffers from mutism, publicly confessing to her ex-boyfriend, guess loving her too much was my biggest mistake. I wandered outside for a while, bought a new phone, filed a police report and gave a statement, and finalized the master's application plan for the fall with my study abroad agency. I also bought a ticket to the US for 10 days later. I planned to get treatment while studying. By the time I got home, it was already 7 p.m. I looked at the half-packed house, covered in a thick layer of dust. I knew Liu Ruyan hadn't been back since. After eating a little something, I continued clearing out my things. The door clicked open. It was actually Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan looked at what I was doing, her face returning to its usual coldness. She just felt I was a bit different today, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. She didn't pause, just walked straight into the bedroom. A sound of rummaging through boxes and cabinets rang out. Then, she rushed out, taking the clothes of hers that I had neatly packed, and tossing the trivial items into a complete mess. I asked, What are you doing? I stepped forward but was pushed away by her hand. She shouted, Where is the voice recorder? It was Liu Ruyan's voice. It had been so long since Liu Ruyan had spoken to me. I replied, What voice recorder? I didn't take it. I looked at the bandages on my right hand slowly oozing red. I was about to speak when another bout of rummaging sounded. I looked up. I had never seen Liu Ruyan look so frantic, sweating profusely from nervousness. Even the silk scarf around her neck was pulled loose. Her skirt was stained with dust. She yelled, Where's the recorder? Liu Ruyan stopped, glaring at me with a furious face. I was speechless. I told you, I didn't see it. Liu Ruyan and I stared at each other. She seemed completely panicked. Her anger surged up. She clenched and unclenched her fists. Smash! She swept the nearby blue and white porcelain vase onto the floor. The porcelain pieces shattered all over the floor. Where is my recorder? Liu Ruyan took a few steps closer, still questioning non-stop. Her right hand was cut by the broken porcelain, blood dripping down. I had never seen Liu Ruyan act so crazy. I lost my patience and pushed her away, wanting to limp out of there. But the next second, a girl's voice played. I am Liu Ruyan, 18 years old this year. I want to confess to Yiding Cheng. This year is our 2-year anniversary. I hope we can always be together. Cheng. We've been together for 3 years. My wish this year is still to be together forever. Cheng, why did you leave? Cheng, I'm getting married. Liu Ruyan had crashed into a pile of junk with a clatter. From out of nowhere rolled a battered voice recorder, its red light blinking. It began playing its contents. These were Liu Ruyan's recordings for Yiding Cheng since she was a young girl. Goodbye. Cheng. Hope to see you again. Goodbye. Goodbye. The recorder seemed somewhat broken from the impact, endlessly repeating the word goodbye. Liu Ruyan quickly quickly got up and grabbed it, nervously pressing the power button. But it just wouldn't work. My feet, which were about to leave, stopped. I slowly turned around, leaning against the shoe cabinet by the door, and asked with a bitter smile, Liu Ruyan, if you didn't love me, why did you agree to marry me? Liu Ruyan pursed her lips, seeming to want to say something, but still couldn't get the words out. Listen to me explain. Boda. A message flashed on the phone. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to calm down. I forcefully held back the sourness rising in my heart. I said, just go. Take all your things and get out of my house. Liu Ruyan pressed her lips tightly together, only gripping the recorder in her hand tighter, which was still repeating that one sentence. She walked past me and out the door. She wrote, I'm sorry. For the next few days, I didn't see Liu Ruyan at all. But, before leaving, I had to go to the hospital one more time to change my dressing. The hospital hallway had already been updated with Yiting Cheng's personal profile, hanging among the many specialists on the first floor. I glanced at it, only to be shocked by his personal publications. These were the papers I wrote before. I repeatedly checked the titles and dates. They were all around the same time as mine. Hello, Mr. G. I was pulled back to reality by a man's voice. I turned my head. It was Yiting Cheng. He said, let's chat. He raised an eyebrow, tilting his head towards the nearby lounge area. Looking at Yiting Cheng in front of me, everything was indeed perfect. His white coat was immaculately ironed. His hair was slicked back with wax, every strand seemingly styled with great care. Yiting Cheng smiled and began, that day, the court called. Ruyan didn't answer. I did. He smiled casually. He said, I didn't know that staying silent meant agreeing to the divorce. Mr. G won't blame me, right? I was silent for a few breaths, then shook my head. I said no, I wanted the divorce. A clean break is better for me. Yiting Cheng didn't seem to care how I answered, immediately adding, also, the car accident that day really was an accident. I've apologized to Ruyan, and she promised I wouldn't get in trouble. I assume Mr. G won't make a fuss about it either, right? I stared at him fixedly without speaking. I actually knew in my heart that many things were not things I could solve on my own right now. That Liu Ruyan would protect Yiting Cheng was also within my expectations. He said, you saw them right. Those papers. Yiting Cheng continued, but his tone darkened. He said, yes, it's exactly what you think. Ruyan knew I was doing research, so she gave them to me herself. Thanks for taking care of Ruyan these past 3 years. I was doing research abroad, and I couldn't be with her all the time. I only found out later that my sudden departure caused her to develop mutism. Yiting Cheng rubbed his forehead, pretending to be distressed. But he immediately broke. He said, but I've only been back for such a short time, and Ruyan is already so much better. I lowered my eyes, unconsciously stirring the coffee the nurse had brought. I asked, are you here to show off to me how much Liu Ruyan loves you? I put down the spoon, tilted my head back and downed the bitter black coffee in one gulp. I said, there's no need. I don't care about Liu Ruyan's past, present, or future. I don't give a damn. I don't like a mute. But remember one thing. I gave her up first. I ignored him, stood up, and walked straight towards the cashier. Mr. G. Yiting Cheng seemed very dissatisfied with my reaction. He actually stood up and tried to grab me. I forcefully shook him off. Smack! Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a familiar, delicate figure. It was Liu Ruyan, half kneeling. She immediately helped up Yiting Cheng, who had just crashed into the railing. Ruyan, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm not that fragile. I just lost my footing. My steps paused. Then, not wanting to deal with it, I strode forward, only to be slapped across the face by Liu Ruyan. The sharp sound echoed down the hospital hallway. Nearby patients and medical staff turned to look. Liu Ruyan seemed a little surprised herself. She looked at her own hand, but her expression returned to its coldness. She said, apologize, holding my throbbing right cheek. I couldn't help but want to laugh. Every time Liu Ruyan actually spoke to me, it was about Yiting Cheng. Just how was I inferior to Yiting Cheng? But that didn't matter anymore. Yiting Cheng said, Ruyan, how could you hit Mr. G? It's fine, Ruyan. I don't need Mr. G to apologize. Liu Ruyan wanted to insist, But Yiting Cheng smoothly put his arm around her shoulder. Liu Ruyan, this block of ice, started to melt again. I always used to think that as long as I was considerate enough, Liu Ruyan would eventually accept me. That, as long as I searched through all the medical texts, Liu Ruyan's mutism would eventually be cured. I had fantasized about so much. But the Liu Ruyan in reality never belonged to me. The flight to the US was at 4:00 p.m. I received a court verdict at noon. From this moment on, I was completely, entirely free. At 1:00 p.m. at the cafe downstairs from her company. "Let's meet," was the message from Liu Ruyan. I thought about it and decided to go, carrying my luggage and holding the verdict. I arrived at the cafe early, from 1 o'clock to 1:30, and then from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. It was Liu Ruyan who initiated the meeting, yet she stood me up. I sent Liu Ruyan several messages, but they all went unanswered. Finally, just a brief two-word reply. "I'm busy. Hello, is this Mr. G? I'm Liu Ruyan's assistant. She asked me to let you know that something suddenly came up and she can't get away, so she won't be able to make it to meet you." I didn't say a word. This was somewhat within my expectations. Liu Ruyan asked me to tell you. She has found an expert in England for you, bone and muscle specialist. She'll arrange for you to go there for treatment later. Also, she transferred another 20 million into your account to cover your living and medical expenses during this time. Holding the phone in one hand and my luggage in the other, I stood up. Before I could even say I don't need it, I looked up across the street and saw Liu Ruyan and Yiting Cheng. They were sitting at an outdoor cafe across the road, talking and laughing. Yiting Cheng looked down with a soft smile, and Liu Ruyan, looking blissfully happy, wanted to lean on his shoulder. The sunlight was beautiful today. The golden sun seemed to coat both of them in a layer of gold. It seemed Liu Ruyan hadn't been this happy in the past 3 years. I immediately stopped my wandering thoughts. "Mr. G, are you listening?" Her assistant was still talking on the other end of the line. I decisively pressed the red end call button. I paid my bill and quickly walked out. I walked straight up to Liu Ruyan and Yiting Cheng. I took the divorce verdict I'd been clutching the whole way and slapped it on their table. Instantly, juice and coffee splashed everywhere, spilling onto Yiting Cheng. My right hand was again grabbed by Liu Ruyan. She didn't even glance at the document. She paused for a few seconds. Liu Ruyan seemed to know that arguing with stubborn me was pointless. She immediately walked to the other side of the table. Using a napkin, she carefully wiped his shirt and trousers. She said, "Are you okay?" "Ah, Cheng." I stood there quietly for a moment, then took a cab to the airport. The announcement sounded over the intercom. "Passengers traveling to the United States, please proceed to boarding gate tone." A message from Liu Ruyan came through. "G Boda, I think you should apologize to Cheng." I didn't hesitate for a second. I directly clicked block and delete. I handed my ID, passport, and visa documents to the security personnel. He scanned them suspiciously and asked, "Just divorced today?" I checked my luggage, then looked up and smiled, replying, yeah, divorced." The AC on the plane was very strong. I asked the flight attendant for a complimentary cashmere blanket, wrapped myself up tightly, and fell into a deep sleep. I didn't even hear the takeoff announcement. There was only one thought in my mind. "Liu Ruyan." "Goodbye," the assistant said, "Miss Liu." The flight to England I had booked for Mr. G. Wang Si sighed, replied that he didn't board the flight. "And I can't reach Mr. G on my end either." Liu Ruyan sat at her desk, dealing with piles of paperwork. Recently, since Yiting Cheng returned to the scene, her efficiency had dropped significantly, causing dissatisfaction among many senior executives and shareholders. Since their unpleasant encounter last time, she and G Boda hadn't communicated for almost 10 days. Liu Ruyan knew G Boda wasn't willing to apologize. She also knew that recently she had been favoring Cheng too much, so she didn't bother him. Arranging for G Boda to get treatment in England also gave the three of them some space and distance. The assistant continued. "Also, the 20 million in living expenses you arranged to be transferred to Mr. G's account earlier was automatically returned by the bank. The bank replied that You and Mr. G are already divorced. He is no longer part of your family account, so do not support large transfers in the tens of millions. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan froze. The hand holding her pen randomly drew a thick, heavy black line, tearing the paper in front of her. She clicked her tongue and typed a line on her phone. What divorce? The assistant standing in front of her was also taken aback. He said, the company, the legal department, received the divorce verdict about 10 days ago. They have already changed your personal information from married to divorced. Did you not know? Liu Ruyan wrote. Bring the documents here. After a short wait, the assistant handed the court's divorce verdict to Liu Ruyan. The verdict was very simple, just 2 pages long. Liu Ruyan looked at the date at the very end. It was the day Jibota argued with her and left. She took out her phone and scrolled up and down, finally using the search bar to find Jibota's WeChat contact. She typed, when did you file for divorce? But the moment she sent it, a red exclamation mark appeared, along with a small line of text. The other party is not your friend. The assistant stood aside, watching Liu Ruyan's expression change. Finally, looking at her phone, Liu Ruyan wrote, find out where Jibota is right now. Liu Ruyan sighed, feeling helpless. After giving her assistant the instructions, she buried her head back in her work. Ruyan, you promised you'd accompany me to socialize with the pharmaceutical reps today. Liu Ruyan replied, I have to work overtime. Liu Ruyan helplessly kissed Yitan Cheng's lips. Then she went back to reviewing contracts and stamping seals, making preparations for business negotiations. Ruyan, when can I go meet your parents? My parents are coming back from abroad next week, and they said they want to meet you too. My dad said if the meeting goes well, he wants to finalize things between us. Yitan Cheng snatched the contract right in front of Liu Ruyan, hid it behind his back, and forced her to look at him. Liu Ruyan had no choice but to look at Yitan Cheng. She looked at his delicate face. At this close distance, the smell of his cologne lingering around her nose was a bit strong. Liu Ruyan has allergies. At this moment, she sneezed inappropriately. Yitan Cheng's expression changed slightly. He pursed his lips, leaned down, and tried to continue persuading Liu Ruyan. He said, Ruyan, I don't want to wait that long. You're already divorced now. Us being together is perfectly justified. Hearing Yitan Cheng's words, Liu Ruyan's hand, reaching for a tissue, stopped midair. She turned her head, looked intently at Yitan Cheng, and said, how did you know I was divorced? As soon as Liu Ruyan said this, Yitan Cheng was also stunned. His expression instantly panicked. He quickly stood up straight, shifting his gaze away to avoid looking at Liu Ruyan. He said, I also heard it from Assistant Lit. A wave of displeasure washed over Liu Ruyan. She knew her assistant wouldn't leak any of her personal information. Therefore, she didn't believe Yitan Cheng's answer. She asked, did you agree to the divorce petition? Hearing Liu Ruyan's words, Yitan Cheng actually became somewhat dissatisfied. He said, Ruyan, didn't you say you loved me? Why are you getting mad at me over that man? I didn't know it was a call from the court. After I answered for you, I remembered you have mutism, and thought it wouldn't be good if I answered for you. Who knew the court's verdict was so strict, saying that no response means default agreement to divorce? Yitan Cheng propped his hands on her desk, his tone softening. He leaned down, trying to capture Liu Ruyan's lips. He said, are you mad at me? He walked behind the desk and massaged Liu Ruyan's shoulders. He whispered, I'm sorry, Ruyan. It was my fault. Don't be mad at me anymore, okay? Helpless, Liu Ruyan subconsciously avoided his hands. She opened her mouth to speak, but the smell of perfume choked her. After some thought, she typed on her phone instead. She wrote, as for meeting your parents, we'll talk about it after I finish this busy period. Liu Ruyan sent a message to her assistant. She sent, help me schedule an appointment with the chief judge of the court. After a day at the company, she went as usual to the Ent department, under her family's name, to see her own mutism specialist. President Liu, your mutism has improved, but the extent of the improvement is still limited. I recommend that you continue your rehabilitation training with me. Mr. G sent me a very long email a while ago, detailing the specific condition of your mutism. Over the past 3 years, I was very inspired after reading it. I think we can continue with a new course of treatment. This time, I'll incorporate your specific situation to adopt a completely new. Before the doctor could finish speaking, Liu Ruyan typed out a refusal. She wrote, "Transfer the records to Dr. Yi. Ask him to handle it for me." Liu Ruyan walked out of the consulting room, about to leave, but her steps paused. She turned around. She happened to have time to go see Yiting Cheng before Liu Ruyan had even entered Yiting Cheng's office. She could already hear his voice. Yiting Cheng was saying, "What, Mrs. Ji? They're already divorced. If you must, call her Mrs. Yi. Understand?" She frowned and didn't push the door open. The nurse said, "Yes. Also, the hospital administration just notified me to ask you to attend a meeting at 4 p.m. and there's a surgery scheduled for you at 5 p.m. The nurse's voice from inside grew softer and softer. Liu Ruyan looked in through the partially open door. Yiting Cheng was holding a mirror, fixing his hair. On his desk were several different types of mousse and hair waxing. The nurse continued, "Also, the hospital director hopes you can abide by the hospital's employee handbook. Doctors are not allowed to use hair gel during work hours and surgeries." Before the nurse could even finish, Yiting Cheng slammed his hand on the desk with a bang. "Do you know what the last name of this hospital is? It's Liu. Do you know who I am? I'm Liu Ruyan's future husband. Do you think my words carry more weight? Or the director's?" Yiting Cheng's tone was slow but full of intimidation. The nurse flinched, hurriedly hugging the files in her arms, and pulled open the door. She instantly met Liu Ruyan's eyes. "President Liu," she bowed deeply, greeting her loudly. Yiting Cheng subconsciously looked back, looking a bit surprised. He immediately stood up, walked over, pushed the nurse out the door, and urged her to leave with annoyance. But when he turned back to Liu Ruyan, his face was full of smiles again. "Ruyan, you came to see me." He reached out his right hand, tapped his index finger against Liu Ruyan's cheek, and then took her right hand, gesturing for her to come inside his office. The heavy smell of hair wax made her feel a bit nauseous. Liu Ruyan said, "You shouldn't." Liu Ruyan had barely started her sentence when Yiting Cheng pinned her against the door. He leaned in close and said, all right. I know I can't be too high profile." He tentatively lowered his head, trying to kiss Liu Ruyan's lips. But Liu Ruyan's lips were pressed tightly together. She only leaned back slightly. Their lips barely brushed against each other. This action made Yiting Cheng's body stiffen. Yiting Cheng frowned and said, "Do you hate me now? Then I'll go apologize to him." He made a show of getting up to leave. Liu Ruyan pulled his right hand back again. She said, "Next time." Yiting Cheng smiled and said, "I know. Ruyan, I won't." "Don't worry." Liu Ruyan held her breath, wanting to say something but couldn't get it out. She actually felt a tightness in her chest. So, she wrote, "My mutism records should have been sent over to you. Can you treat me for the next course?" "Now, Hall." Read the words. Liu Ruyan typed on her phone, a hint of impatience in his eyes. He said, "Mutism? Isn't it almost cured? Ruyan, as long as you spend more time with me and marry me, it'll naturally go away, won't it? There's absolutely no need for treatment." Yiting Cheng turned his head, took his passport out of the drawer, and showed it to Liu Ruyan. He said, "Let's go on a trip abroad next week, okay?" Liu Ruyan typed, "I still need another course of treatment." Yiting Cheng's impatience deepened after reading it, and he started losing his temper at her directly. "I said there's no need. I'm a medical graduate from a top university too. Why don't you believe me? Besides, since I came back, your mutism has gotten so much better, hasn't it? For this kind of psychological illness, you just need to go out and relax more. I don't want to work here anymore. It's so boring, every day." Looking at Yiting Cheng's back, Liu Ruyan somehow thought of Jiboda. "Jiboda, seed, for all your future treatments. I'll go with you, okay? I will definitely stay by your side until you're cured." Jiboda's smiling face appeared before her eyes. After a long silence, she could only suppress the displeasure in her heart, stand up, and hug Yiting Cheng's arms from behind to comfort him. "Rest, then." The words fell from Liu Ruyan's mouth, one by one. Liu Ruyan only felt an itch in her throat, and an extreme tightness in her chest. The chief judge said, I'm sorry, Miss Liu. Our verdict has already been rendered and is in effect. This is public authority. It cannot be altered. I don't think there's any need for me to visit the corporation again. I still have many cases to handle. Liu Ruyan just opened her mouth to say something, but the heavy feeling from before was still there. She couldn't utter a single syllable. Seeing that she wasn't responding, the chief judge said goodbye and hung up the phone. She looked at the phone indicating the call had ended, momentarily unsure of how to react. She and Jibota were really divorced. I slept for over 10 hours straight. It wasn't until the plane's landing announcement sounded that I slowly woke up. The AC on the plane was very strong, but the wool blanket wrapped around me provided a comfortable temperature. The plane will be landing shortly at Huazhou Airport in the US. Passengers, please prepare for landing. I sat up, turned on my phone, and connected to the plane's Wi-Fi. A series of urgent notification sounds rang out. I quickly muted my phone and apologized softly to the person sitting next to me. When I looked closely, there were missed calls from several unknown US numbers. On WeChat, there was also a small new friend request notification. Not a single message was related to Liu Ruyan. I imperceptibly let out a sigh of relief. It wasn't until the weightless feeling of the plane landing that I finally felt a sense of reality about my new life. Mr. G, are you planning to sell your luxury apartment for 25 million? I replied, yes, I need the money urgently. Help me sell it as soon as possible. A slightly lower price is fine too. I hung up the phone with a snap. I continued cleaning my new place in the US. Right now, the only thing connecting me to Liu Ruyan is that house she recently transferred to me. Liquidating it for cash seems like the right move. A week after cashing out, I will be enrolling in a famous medical school in Huazhou. To pursue a 4-year Master of Medicine degree, my focus will still be what I excel at: psychological health and cardiothoracic medicine. The person who proactively added me today is a teacher from the university's freshman orientation office. She is a female teacher of mixed Chinese and American descent, whose Chinese name is Shen Yuchu. After adding her as a friend, I simply exchanged greetings with her. She also sent me the school's course schedule, accommodation arrangements, and other important notices. As for the treatment for my right hand, she also brought good news. The medical school's affiliated hospital. The hospital will offer me their best employee discount and the most advanced treatment available. She also told me about a case even more severe than mine that fully recovered in just 6 months. My hand should be back to normal in 2 to 4 months. Everything was finally moving forward smoothly, just as I expected. Liu Ruyan didn't try to contact me again. She's always been naturally aloof and arrogant. At first, she probably thought I was just throwing a tantrum or giving her the silent treatment, but now that she knows the truth, we have absolutely no reason left to speak to each other. The weather in the US is great. Sunlight streamed through the clean glass windows, illuminating the room. So clearly I could see every speck of dust. I found myself humming a tune unconsciously. Then, Shen Yuchu called me. Gee, we looked into it. The undergraduate thesis you submitted has already been published. Under the name Yi Chang from a medical school in Manchester. Did you know about this? Everything clicked into place instantly. Yes, I replied. My ex-wife gave my thesis to him, but I have all my outlines and drafts. I conducted every interview and site visit myself. I have all the evidence to prove it. Shen Yuchu let out a soft laugh. That's perfect then, she said. Email those documents to me. The school will file an academic misconduct arbitration for you. It should take about 10 business days to get your academic credits and work back. I thanked her repeatedly. As soon as I hung up, I started prepping the files, even though my hand throbbed so much that I had to stop every few minutes. I was genuinely happy. Maybe leaving Liu Ruyan was the best decision I've made in 3 years. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan was running herself ragged. 2 weeks later, on a flight to Thailand, her heart suddenly stopped. Yiting Cheng was sitting right next to her, in business class, totally absorbed in a movie. Liu Ruyan felt a suffocating pressure spread from her chest to her entire body. It felt like a massive boulder was wedged in her throat. She used every last bit of strength to try and reach Yiting Cheng, but her hand just limply fell even though Yiting Cheng wasn't wearing headphones. He didn't notice Liu Ruyan passing out beside him. In that moment her despair was even more agonizing than the physical pain, as her eyes were forced shut. Flashbacks of her life with Jiboda played in her mind. Jiboda always kept the house spotless. Jiboda cooked nutritious meals for her every single day. Jiboda planned her workouts and managed her schedule perfectly. He even helped her solve work problems. As she slipped away, she couldn't even manage a bitter smile. It was pathetic. The billionaire heiress of the Liu family had survived on takeout for the past 2 weeks. Then, everything went black. When she finally saw light again, she didn't feel any joy at being alive. Her condition is critical, someone said. Initial diagnosis is cardiac arrest due to exhaustion. But given her history, it could be a complication of her mutism. It's a miracle she's back. If the flight attendant hadn't noticed immediately, she would have been brain dead. Liu Ruyan's mind was still foggy. She tried to move her fingers, but couldn't. Strangely, she didn't feel any pain. Part of her felt tired and just wanted to let go. But her heart felt hollow and incredibly bitter. She still hadn't heard Yiting Cheng's voice. "Mr. Yiting," someone asked, "are you her family?" Silence. She waited, but no answer came. The person continued, "She needs constant care. The next 3 days are critical. Someone must be with her every second. To prevent another incident, if she stabilizes in 3 days, it's best to charter a flight back home." Then, she finally heard Yiting Cheng's impatient voice. 3 days, but I already booked a day trip to the islands for today." Even the doctor sighed. "Mr. Yiting, this is a life or death situation. The islands will still be there when she's better. Can't I just hire a nurse?" Yiting Cheng asked. He sounded relieved, like he'd found a loophole. But Liu Ruyan felt like she was falling into a bottomless pit. That freezing bitterness surged through her again. So this was the man she loved. When did Cheng become so heartless? Suddenly, the heart monitor let out a piercing alarm. "Vitals are dropping. Prepare 3 mg of epinephrine." With a loud thud, the doctor applied the defibrillator to her chest. Liu Ruyan's body arched into the air. A blinding white light flashed before she slammed back onto the bed. It happened again and again. She felt her head was about to explode as she sank back into the dark void. "President Liu, you're finally..." When she opened her eyes again, her throat felt like it was on fire. She tried to cough, but couldn't. Her lips were parched. "Water." It wasn't Cheng's voice. It was her assistant. Her assistant quickly adjusted the bed so she could sit up. "Here, President Liu, take small sips." Liu Ruyan sipped the water, struggling to swallow. She pointed to her throat, signaling the intense discomfort. "Is your throat bothering you? I'll get the doctor right away." The assistant rushed out to find a doctor, forgetting the call button entirely. Liu Ruyan scanned the room. She was still in Thailand, but Cheng was nowhere to be seen. Her assistant must have been flown in after she lost consciousness again. The medical team arrived quickly. After a brief exam, they sighed in relief. "Miss Liu, you're out of immediate danger, but you need to stay here for observation. The high altitude of a flight could trigger another heart issue." The assistant quickly cut in. "President Liu says her throat is very uncomfortable. Please check it again." Before the doctor could answer, Yiting Cheng's voice rang out from the doorway. "Her throat is fine. I checked it myself." He walked in wearing massive gold sunglasses and carrying a stack of designer shopping bags. He looked like he was on a luxury vacation. "Ruyan, you're finally awake. I waited forever. Then I went out for just a bit, and you woke up. I'm so happy." He pushed past everyone and threw himself onto her bed. The impact jolted her chest, making her cough up blood. "Holy shit!" Yiting Cheng recoiled in disgust when he saw the look on everyone's faces. He tried to laugh it off. "Sorry, that just caught me off guard." He slowly reached for a tissue to wipe her face. But Liu Ruyan coldly turned her head away. His hand froze in mid-air. The assistant snatched the tissue and cleaned up the blood instead. "Mr. Yiting, why don't you wait outside so the doctors can work?" "What did you just say? Are you saying I'm not a real doctor?" He snapped, his temper flaring. The assistant ignored his outburst and physically pushed him out of the room, locking the door behind him. Yiting Cheng went ballistic. rattling the handle and pounding on the door. "Open this damn door! I told you, I'm a doctor. I'm her future husband. Wait until Rian gets better. I'll make sure you're fired." His last shouted words were the most pathetic of all. "Ruyan, open up. All the stuff I bought is still in there." The ruling on my thesis was final. A 3-person panel reviewed all my drafts and awarded the rights back to me. "Holy shit," Yitin Chang blurted out when he saw the blood. He recoiled in pure disgust. When he noticed everyone staring, he forced a fake, awkward smile. "That caught me off guard," he said. "I wasn't ready for that." Still talking, he slowly moved back to Liu Ruyan's bedside. He grabbed a tissue to wipe her face. Liu Ruyan's expression went ice cold. She turned her head, dodging him completely. Yitin Cheng's hand froze awkwardly in midair. Seeing this, Liu Ruyan's assistant took the tissue from Yitin Cheng and cleaned the blood off the bed herself. "Mr. Yitin," the assistant said, "why don't you wait outside for a bit? Let the doctors examine President Liu." "Excuse me," Yitin Cheng snapped. "Are you saying I don't know medicine?" The assistant had clearly struck a nerve. His anger flared instantly, but the assistant just physically blocked him and pushed him right out the door. Then she locked it from the inside. Yitin Cheng wouldn't let it go, though. He frantically rattled the door handle. When that didn't work, he started pounding on the door. "Who the hell do you think you are to keep me out? I told you I'm a doctor too. I should be in there. I'm Liu Ruyan's future husband. You're nothing. Just wait. When Ruyan recovers, I'll make sure she fires you. Ruyan, open the door. Let me in." His last line made everyone laugh. "The stuff I bought is still in there." The decision on my thesis ownership was quick. The hearing was scheduled for 3 days later. The panel consisted of Yitin Cheng's mentor and medical graduate mentors from Huazhou. The 3 of them formed the review board. After reviewing the files and checking every trace of the collaboration, they made the final call on ownership. That day, I dressed up in a sharp, dark gray suit, a white standing collar shirt underneath, a matching gray blazer, and some tailored cropped trousers, paired with some clean coffee-colored leather shoes. I looked at myself in the mirror. Something felt missing, though. I went straight to a Mont Blanc counter to pick out a lapel pin and a watch set. "You have great taste, sir." The clerk didn't hold back on the praise. I just smiled and said thanks. When I arrived, Shen Yuchu was actually there before me. Even after a while, once the mentors arrived, Yitin Cheng was still a no-show. The staff member announced to the mentors, "The phone number provided by Mr. Yitin Cheng has been unreachable." Prior to this, we sent out formal paper documents to invite his attendance, but we received no response. Per regulations, the hearing will now officially begin. After explaining the situation, the staff motioned for the others to present the prepped files. This included the paper, my original research logs, citation records, and so on. Since Yitin Cheng didn't provide anything, the staff gathered everything from his time as a student, class assignments, other papers, etc., as a backup. The result was quick and left no room for doubt. Following the board's deliberation, it was decided that the rights to the paper belonged to Mr. G. Boda, with the Manchester Medical School dean's approval, and they stripped Yitin Cheng of his research credentials, revoking his master's degree and graduation certificate. The room erupted in applause. Shen Yuchu was thrilled too. She gave me a huge, warm hug. I could feel my hands trembling. My face was slightly flushed, and tears were actually glistening in my eyes. Seeing my expression, Shen Yuchu thought she'd overstepped. She apologized over and over. "Sorry, G. I'm just so happy for you." I shook my head. "I'm just so happy." My voice was shaking. I never thought it would go this smoothly. Back home, my dad always told me not to fight for things. I thought that, as long as I had. I choked up and paused, but I quickly regained my composure. "It's okay," I continued. "The past doesn't matter anymore. What matters is how happy I am now. This was mine to begin with, but I never expected to actually get justice." Shen Yuchu's eyes sparkled. "Exactly," she said. "You deserve your own work back." When I got home, I received a formal congratulatory email from my undergraduate school. I logged onto the medical databases to search for my paper's title. They were incredibly efficient. The author had already been changed. From Yiding Cheng to G. Boda. I was so happy, I almost wanted to sing. My new life truly started the moment I divorced. After 2 weeks of rest in Thailand, Liu Ruyan chartered a flight back home. Her heart issue had stabilized a bit, but her mutism was worsening. She couldn't even get a simple sentence out to Yiting Cheng. She went back to work the day after waking up. Yiting Cheng was still out shopping, clubbing, and living it up. He was having the time of his life. He even rented a short-term place nearby. When Liu Ruyan set the date for their return flight, he was actually pretty annoyed. "Going back to work already?" he complained. "Ruyan, can I just quit?" He took a sip of water while talking to her on the plane. Liu Ruyan almost grabbed his hand out of habit. Halfway there, she reached for her water glass instead. "Up to you," she wrote. Yiting Cheng said, "Why don't we get married once we're back? My parents already sent me my household register." He leaned in close. The stench of smoke and hairspray gave her a headache, but those words made Liu Ruyan freeze. She suddenly remembered that, after marrying G. Boda, he'd moved his registry under her name. She had no idea how all that stood now. Liu Ruyan's silence clearly pissed Yiting Cheng off. He scowled, his tone turning even more toxic. "Ruyan, you won't marry me, or even let me meet your parents. Are you just playing with me? Before I left you said you'd marry me. Now I'm back and you're single. You're not reacting to the marriage talk at all. Are you still hung up on that? Jiboda? You miss him now that he's gone." That actually woke Liu Ruyan. She didn't even look at Yiting Cheng, just stared blankly at her glass. She'd been thinking about G. Boda a lot lately. Did she really miss him? Did she still care? If G. Boda were here, would he have forced her to fly abroad while she was stressed at work? Would he have noticed she was ill right away? Would she have been resuscitated twice? Would her mutism have gotten this bad? A loud smash snapped her back to reality. She looked over at a furious Yiting Cheng standing over her. Her glass was shattered at his feet, water splashing everywhere. The flight attendants wanted to help, but were too scared to move. "Liu Ruyan," Yiting Cheng roared. "Why won't you answer me? Do you love me or not? Say it." Liu Ruyan looked up at him. Yiting Cheng's voice was deafening. His face was twisted with rage. His features were contorted. In an instant, she felt like the man before her was a complete stranger. He was no longer considerate or patient. What exactly went wrong? The sound of a sharp slap rang out. Liu Ruyan held her cheek in disbelief. She looked up at Yiting Cheng. Yiting Cheng looked panicked now. He stared at his hand, lost. Only the hum of the AC filled the cabin. Everyone was shocked by this sudden turn. "Ruyan," he stammered. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I was just so anxious. You wouldn't answer me. I didn't know why you stopped talking." Yiting Cheng's lips trembled with fear. He knew Liu Ruyan was furious. He tried to hug her, but her assistant blocked him. Liu Ruyan turned away, feeling an unbearable weight on her chest. She gave a weary wave of her hand. Several bodyguards stepped forward and dragged the shouting Yiting Cheng away to another part of the plane. Her heart was racing, pounding, faster and faster. Her breathing became shallow. Liu Ruyan passed out again. When she woke up, she was back in the hospital, surrounded by even more complex medical gear. The constant beeping made her head throb. She reached out to turn it off, but a wave of nausea hit her. At first, she threw up her last meal. Then it was just bile. She gripped the bed rail, gasping for air for a long time, before she finally stabilized. Arguing erupted outside the door. Another sharp slap echoed, followed by Yiting Cheng's angry yelling. But Liu Ruyan didn't care. She couldn't even describe her own feelings. Was she too drained to care, or just done with him? Liu Ruyan's mother screamed, "How dare you lay a hand on my daughter? She was perfectly fine before she left with you. Heart arrest on the flight there. She barely survives that, and then she faints on the flight back. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? If anything happens to her, dying 10,000 times wouldn't be enough." She knew her mother had hated him for 3 years. And now, she had the perfect reason to keep them apart. Yiting Cheng's voice grew quieter. Auntie, I'm sorry. I really am, man. She wouldn't answer me, and I just lost it. I thought she was just being difficult. Please forgive me. Liu Ruyan sat up, leaning on the bed rail. She rinsed her mouth with some water. She felt a bit more grounded now. But, strangely, her throat felt even tighter. It felt like something was stuck whenever she swallowed. Hearing her move, the door was flung open. Ying Cheng rushed in, still in his travel clothes. He must have followed her straight to the hospital. He stumbled toward her, and fell to his knees by the bed. He grabbed her knees frantically. Ruyan, please, let me explain. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't know you were actually sick. Mutism alone doesn't cause this. I'm a doctor, I know. He reached out with shaking hands to touch her face. Ruyan, he pleaded, just say something. I know you still love me, right? Liu Ruyan just stared at him with cold eyes. It wasn't that she couldn't speak, she just didn't want to. Her mother stood at the door, waiting for her to decide. Liu Ruyan looked at the assistant. Behind her mother, several bodyguards immediately marched in it, and grabbed a crying Ying Cheng. No, don't take me away, he yelled. Ruyan, Ruyan, you can't do this to me. I came back, just for you. Remember 3 years ago? His voice faded down the hall. Liu Ruyan just closed her eyes. As the noise died out, Sweetie, her mother said, approaching the bed. I know you're independent now. I know about the divorce with Boda. That was between you two, but is this really the man who will make you happy? I need you to really think about this. Liu Ruyan stared at her medical report, completely stunned. The doctor explained, your speech issue is partly the mutism, but there's also a tumor behind your vocal cords, likely caused by extreme exhaustion. It's growing rapidly. We need to operate immediately. Liu Ruyan type. I get checkups every month. Why wasn't this caught? The specialist looked at her screen. I've reviewed your previous reports. It wasn't there for the last 3 years, but it was clearly visible in last month's report. If we caught it then, it wouldn't be this bad now. Apparently, Dr. Yi personally handled that report. No one else dared to interfere with your private health matters. The doctor moved on to post-op care and potential surgery dates. Liu Ruyan was reeling. Everything had spiraled out of control. Since Ying Cheng came back and Boda left, she let out a heavy sigh and wrote, schedule the surgery for tomorrow morning. When she was lying on the operating table, she didn't even feel nervous. The doctors were more anxious than she was. Don't worry, it's a minor procedure. We'll use a minimally invasive technique. The tumor will be removed through your mouth. You'll need to stick to liquids for a month. Avoid any irritation. Liu Ruyan nodded. As the nurses positioned her, she felt the cold anesthesia entering her body. Her consciousness began to fade. Liu Ruyan fell into a dream. She was back to the day of her blind date with Ji Boda. Back when Ying Cheng had just left for abroad. Back then, he didn't even know her real identity. She had admired his courage to chase his dreams, no matter what. Hello, I'm Ji Boda. She looked up at the young Boda. 3 years ago, she had been so arrogant. She looked down on rich, pampered guys. But Boda was brilliant. He had multiple grad school offers, and top-tier hospitals were begging to hire him. Her mother was thrilled with him. Don't you plan on continuing your studies? Her mother asked. Liu Ruyan had found herself curious too. She'd never actually cared about his background, or what his plans were before. My plans? Boda replied. He looked directly into her eyes. I choose Ruyan. Giving up one thing for another is normal. Right now, I want to try choosing her. Liu Ruyan's eyes snapped open. She tried to sit up, but was held down. More anesthesia. Why is she waking up? The doctor's voice was frantic. Her eyes welled with tears. As she slipped back into the void, she couldn't remember his actual answer from 3 years ago. She'd never known he loved her that much. Her only thought, as she blacked out again, was that she had to find Boda. Miss Liu, you can't fly yet. Even if you know his school, your health comes first. Her assistant was practically pleading by her bed. You won't be cleared to fly until next month. Did you learn nothing from Thailand? Liu Ruyan just typed on her screen. Book a ticket to Huazhou for next Monday, and find out where Ji Boda's household register is now. The assistant looked awkward. He moved his register online right after the divorce. I don't have the authorization to track him anymore. And that house you gave him? He sold it. We have no way to contact him. Liu Ruyan stopped typing. Then came a knock at the door. Yiting Cheng walked in before they could even answer. He looked like a wreck. He had no idea who she really was. What he actually admired was his courage and conviction to leave everything behind for his dreams. Hi, I'm Ji Boda. Liu Ruyan followed the voice and looked over. It was the Ji Boda from 3 years ago, when they first met. Back then, he carried an air of disdain. He truly despised those spoiled, pampered, rich kids. As the eldest son of the Ji family, he was exceptional. He had already finished his Bachelor of Medicine. At the same time, he had received multiple graduate school offers. Even top hospitals in the capital wanted him on their staff. His mother's side was extremely satisfied with Ji Boda. Liu Ruyan's mother asked, "Mr. Ji, don't you plan to keep studying?" Liu Ruyan was also intrigued by her mother's question, and looked at him inquisitively. 3 years ago, she never seemed to notice what Ji Boda actually studied, where he graduated from, or what his plans and ambitions were. Ji Boda replied regarding his plans. Ji Boda looked up at Liu Ruyan. "It's because I really like Ruyan," he said. "It's normal to give up one thing for another. Right now I want to try choosing Ruyan." Liu Ruyan's eyes snapped open. She struggled to sit up, but was firmly held down by the nurse. "Quick, more anesthesia." Why did she wake up so suddenly? It was the doctor's voice. Liu Ruyan's eyes grew misty as she slowly drifted back into unconsciousness. What Ji Boda's real answer was 3 years ago, she could no longer remember. She had no idea where those words came from. She never knew that Ji Boda loved her that much, giving up so many things just for her. Her only thought, before blacking out, was that she had to find Ji Boda. "Miss Liu, you can't fly yet. Even if you found Ji Boda's school in the US, your health must come first." The assistant was pacing frantically by Liu Ruyan's bed. The assistant said, "At the earliest, you can't fly until next month." The doctor already said, "High altitudes are too dangerous right now. Haven't you learned your lesson from Thailand?" Liu Ruyan didn't say much, simply typing on her phone. "Book a ticket to Huazhu, USA, for next Monday. Check where Ji Boda's household register is currently located." The assistant looked incredibly awkward reading this. The assistant said after the divorce, Ji Boda immediately transferred his registration online. "I no longer have the authority to track his location. And the house you transferred to him, he's already sold it. Except for his old bank account, we have no way to establish contact." Liu Ruyan stopped typing. The assistant remained silent as well. Then, a knock came at the door. The visitor walked in before anyone could answer. It was Yiting Cheng. In just a few days, without seeing her, he had become haggard. Dark circles hung under his eyes, and his cheeks were sunken. He looked completely drained. Liu Ruyan didn't even give her assistant a look. She just stepped forward to block him. "Mr. Yiting, it's not a good time. President Liu needs her rest." Yiting Cheng gritted his teeth. "Ruyan, please don't push me away like this. I was wrong. Please, forgive me." Disgust flickered in Liu Ruyan's eyes. Seeing this, Yiting Cheng completely panicked. "Ruyan, that thesis you gave me. My mentor contacted me. The academic misconduct arbitration ruled in favor of Ji Boda. My authorship, my degree, my diploma, they've all been revoked." His voice was trembling with pure terror. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan remembered her previous reckless actions. Her guilt toward Ji Boda only intensified. Yiting Cheng continued, "Now the hospital is firing me. But just one word from you. Just one word, and I can keep my job. I'm begging you, for the sake of our history." His knees were shaking uncontrollably. Seeing Liu Ruyan's indifference, he dropped to his knees. With a heavy thud, "Ruyan, I'm on my knees. Give me a chance to make it right." Liu Ruyan looked at him, and felt a flicker of sympathy, but she simply gave a slight nod and looked away. The assistant immediately called security to drag Yiting Cheng away. His crying echoed through the entire hospital floor. Liu Ruyan opened her phone and found the email from months ago, the one where she sent Ji Boda's research to Ah Cheng. She was consumed by regret. She messaged her assistant, "Donate $20 million to the Huazhou Medical School. In Jibota's name, Liu Ruyan brought a medical team and $30 million worth of equipment to the U.S. The private jet's AC was blasting. She watched events, her heart feeling like lead. The cabin was silent. She could hear her own heartbeat. She admitted she missed him. But with Jibota gone, she didn't know how to face things. She was blocked on everything. The divorce papers were still in her bag. She had no confidence in reaching out, so she just kept sending compensation, hoping he'd change his mind about her. The flight felt like an eternity. She tossed and turned in her wide first-class seat, unable to sleep. The doctors checked her every hour to monitor her vitals. Finally, they landed in a rainy Huazhou, surrounded by bodyguards. She went through the VIP terminal to her van. The assistant said, "President Liu, let's head to the hotel first. The donations and equipment for Jibota's school have been processed. The new gear from the flight is being delivered now. Don't worry." The assistant showed her the transfer receipts on an iPad. Liu Ruyan pushed the tablet away and adjusted her hair. "Skip the hotel," she typed. "Go straight to the school. Call the dean and say, I'm coming." The assistant hesitated. "Should I ask the dean to notify Mr. G to be there?" Liu Ruyan fell silent. "Ask the dean to arrange a private meeting between us." The drive was only 30 minutes, but her hands were sweating with nerves. She wasn't sure if he was playing hard to get, or if he truly felt nothing for her. She closed her eyes, but the tightness in her throat remained. The dean was waiting for them in the rain. "President Liu, thank you for your generosity." She ignored him and walked inside. The assistant shook the dean's hand. "Our schedule is tight. Where is the meeting with Mr. G?" The dean looked uncomfortable. "He's in the lab. We had to schedule an extra lab session, since we can't force students to social events." Liu Ruyan pushed past the bodyguards toward the lab. Through the glass in the heavy door, she heard Jibota laughing with a girl. Her heart sank. She hadn't seen him smile in forever. He was in his white coat, discussing data with a shorter girl. They looked close. She couldn't hear them now, but they both looked genuinely happy. Liu Ruyan was too scared to open the door. Her chest tightened, and her head spun. She nearly fell over. The assistant called for a doctor and an oxygen tank. I heard the noise in the hall and looked toward the door. Liu Ruyan pushed her team aside, swiped the dean's badge, and burst in. "Did Jibota still have any feelings for me?" I closed my eyes, exhausted, trying to get some rest, but the suffocating tightness in my throat, it followed me like a shadow. The dean of the medical school stood in the pouring rain, waiting respectfully outside the main gate. "President Liu, thank you so much for your generosity." Liu Ruyan didn't even spare him a glance. Flanked by bodyguards and her assistant, she hurried into the research building. Liu Ruyan gave her assistant a sharp look. The assistant immediately turned to the dean, shaking his hand amidst the curtain of rain. "Hello, Dean. President Liu's schedule is incredibly tight. Where did you arrange the meeting with Mr. Jibota?" The dean hesitated, his expression shifting uneasily. He froze for a second, then led the way. "He's in the medical school simulation lab. I apologize, but we can't force students to attend any non-academic events. To meet your request, President Liu, we had to open a temporary lab session." The dean's tone held a hint of resentment, but Liu Ruyan couldn't have cared less. She pushed past her guards, heading straight for the lab. The lab door was thick and heavy, impossible to just push open, but it had a large glass viewing panel. Just as Liu Ruyan signaled for the ID scan, she heard sounds of laughter from inside. It was Jibota and a girl I didn't know, talking and joking together. A wave of panic hit Liu Ruyan. She thought back. It had been so long since she'd seen Jibota smile like that. Through the glass, she saw him in a white coat doing an experiment. The girl beside him was a head shorter. They seemed to be debating lab data, totally lost in their own world. The conversation looked incredibly intimate. Liu Ruyan couldn't hear their specific words. The soundproofing was too good. She only caught bursts of laughter. But, from her angle, Jibota's smile was beaming. The girl looked radiant. Suddenly, Liu Ruyan was afraid to open the door. She feared the worst. Her chest felt like it was being crushed, and her head began to swim with dizziness. She could barely stay on her feet. She swayed and nearly collapsed. The assistant panicked, immediately calling the medical team. Waiting at the institute entrance. "Oxygen," Get me an oxygen tank. Hurry! President Liu needs help. Inside the lab. The noise in the hallway broke my concentration. I glanced back toward the door. Liu Ruyan shoved her helpers aside, snatched the dean's ID card, and swiped the lab door open with a beep. Ji Boda! I jumped, startled by the intrusion. I instinctively moved to shield Shen Yuchu. Then, I saw exactly who it was. Seeing that, Liu Ruyan's words died in her throat. Our eyes finally met. Liu Ruyan began frantically typing. Who is she? She demanded on screen. Did you divorce me for her? She waved off the medical team and refused to go to the lounge. She just wanted Shen Yuchu out. Now, as the heavy lab door clicked shut, it was just Liu Ruyan and me. I didn't even want to look at her. I turned back to my microscope. Her temper flared. With a violent sweep, she sent my tools and samples crashing to the floor. I stared at her, stunned and then silent. I just let my hands drop and slowly knelt down to pick up the ruined samples. I picked up my microscope, setting it back on the bench. The lens was shattered. The equipment I babied every day was completely trashed. Liu Ruyan wasn't finished. She grabbed my right hand, pulling me around to face her. Answer me, she typed furiously. The screen was blinding. Irritation surged through me. I shoved her away. Liu Ruyan, I said coldly, I'm not mute, and neither are you. Your medicine is back in China. It's Yiting Cheng. I've already stepped out of the way for you two. Stop bothering me. I felt my anger peaking. That paper was mine. I took it back myself. You have no right to interfere. Did you think your power could control everything? If Yiting Cheng wants a career, tell him to write his own damn papers. I am not his stepping stone. I was shaking, my chest heaving. But Liu Ruyan suddenly doubled over in pain. She broke into a cold sweat. She tried to steady herself on the table, but she collapsed onto the floor with a crash. Save me, she rasped. Liu Ruyan fought to stay conscious. Through the ringing in her ears, she saw Jiboda yelling, his lips moving, but she couldn't hear a word. She wanted to apologize, to ask him to come back, to not leave her. But nothing came out. Air was trapped in her throat. Was it the mutism or the surgery? Her throat felt bone dry. She had 1,000 things to say, but all that came out was, sorry. She clawed at a table leg, trying to hold herself up, but it felt like a black hole was sucking her in. She reached out for me, but I felt miles away. Her eyelids grew heavy. Breathing became a battle. Time stopped as she sat there gasping for air, staring at the floor to stay awake. The ringing intensified. Then, people rushed in. Hands lifted her up. A mask was pressed to her face. Fresh oxygen hit her lungs. Liu Ruyan took a long time to come around. She ripped the mask off, fighting the hands trying to help her. Ji Boda! Her own voice startled her. Everyone froze. She turned around. But reality crushed her again. That girl was holding his hands, asking him if he was okay. Ji Boda just gave her a small smile. Liu Ruyan's heart shattered. She remembered the night Yiting Cheng left. He'd left a note with no explanation. She'd felt sad, then angry. Even her mutism diagnosis hadn't scared her. She'd just given up on people. But this was terror. A pure, cold fear she'd never felt before. She knew his answer before he spoke it. He wouldn't choose her again. She forced herself up, pushing through the crowd. She had to get to him. Every step was a struggle. The cold AC made her skin crawl. She shoved the girl aside. I backed away, eyes full of warning. She opened her mouth. Her voice was back. Let's remarry. Come home. But my refusal was final. Disgust was written all over my face. No way, I said. It was a total disaster. Back at her hotel, Liu Ruyan listened to her father yell, "You're in this condition, and still running around." The doctor said, "Stay put. Do you know how much the group is losing?" Liu Ruyan stayed silent. After a long pause, she just hung up. She sat on the edge of the bed, Jiboda's rejection echoing in her head. She couldn't believe it. "President Liu, your father booked your flight." Her assistant walked in cautiously. Liu Ruyan let out a weary sigh and just waved her away. Back in Jiang City, she used donations to track his life. She didn't have the guts to call him. 6 months passed. Yiting Cheng was still at her hospital, but he'd been stripped of his credentials. He was just an assistant now. A fear she had never felt before completely consumed Liu Ruyan. She had no idea what Jiboda had just said to her. But deep down, she already knew the answer. He wasn't going to choose her again. Liu Ruyan gritted her teeth and struggled through the crowd, trying to get to me one more time, even though it was only a few steps. She was drenched in a cold sweat. The blast from the AC sent instant goosebumps across her skin. Liu Ruyan shoved past the girl standing in front of me. I instinctively took a few steps back, my eyes full of wariness. She opened her mouth, and her voice finally returned. "Let's remarry and go home," she pleaded. But my refusal was absolute. The coldness in my eyes cut deep. My expression was nothing but pure disgust. "I said no," I replied. The confrontation ended in total disaster. Back at her hotel, Liu Ruyan sat silently as her father yelled over the phone, "You're in that state, and you're still running all over the world. I don't blame you for being sick, but the doctor specifically said you can't travel. Do you have any idea how much work is piling up? Do you know how much the group lost while you were unconscious?" Liu Ruyan listened without saying a word. After a long silence, she simply hung up the phone. She stared at the wall for a long time. Jiboda's words kept looping in her head. "I refuse." She couldn't bring herself to believe it. "President Liu, your father booked your flight home for this afternoon." Her assistant carefully entered the room to update her. Liu Ruyan let out a heavy sigh and waved her away with a look of total defeat. Once back in Jiang City, she used donations as an excuse to keep tabs on Jiboda's life. She still didn't have the courage to contact him. 6 months passed like this. During that time, Yiting Cheng remained at the Liu family hospital, but he had been stripped of his credential. His degrees and certificates were all revoked by the school. His medical license was also being investigated. It turned out he used a shady joint program to cheat his way through. He lacked any real medical knowledge or skills. Consequently, the hospital officially canceled his registration. Over those 6 months, Yiting Cheng tried to see Liu Ruyan countless times, but she never gave him a second of her time. Desperate, he eventually had to bribe the hospital director just to keep a job. But he was demoted to a mere assistant. Then came in the spring of 2026. President Liu, her assistant, burst into the office looking excited. For months, Liu Ruyan had buried herself in work just to stay numb. She had also been trying to appeal the divorce ruling, but her claims were repeatedly rejected for lack of evidence. "Mr. Jiboda is returning to China. He's competing for a major newcomer award in the medical field." Liu Ruyan immediately dropped her work and looked up. "Tell me more," she gestured. "The competition and the follow-up forum are being held at our first hospital, which means he's coming back to Jiang City." Liu Ruyan stood up so fast, she knocked files off her desk. When she typed frantically, she had spent the last 6 months trying to fix her broken life. Her tumor was gone, and the checkups showed no recurrence. But she still couldn't speak. Her mutism remained. She had no medicine. Unless Jiboda was her only cure. "It's next week," the assistant replied. "Should we talk to the medical association to ensure he wins?" Liu Ruyan's hands shook with nervous energy as she clutched her phone. She typed and deleted, finally writing, "Donate $10 million for event funding, and visit every professor on the panel. Make my position very clear." "Understood, President Liu." The assistant left to handle it, leaving Liu Ruyan with a pounding heart. At 11:00 p.m. that night, Liu Ruyan finished her work and headed to the garage, only to find Yiting Cheng. He had been waiting there for her all day. "Ruyan!" he cried out, overjoyed to see her. But she didn't make a sound. She gave him a cold stare and tried to reach for her car door. He blocked her way, refusing to let her leave. "How long are you going to stay mad at me?" Liu Ruyan looked at him closely for the first time in months. He was still dressed in Armani, flaunting a new diamond watch. The close proximity made her nauseous. She backed away, covering her nose in clear disgust. Yiting Cheng's grip on the door handle tightened. "Ruyan, I know I'm not a doctor anymore, but all those years of school weren't for nothing. You used to say I was just taking a shortcut that others couldn't. You supported me then, Why the sudden change of heart? He sounded bitter and entitled, even while trying to play nice. She still didn't say anything. I really am sorry, he pleaded. Everything I did was because I wanted to marry you. I thought you'd always care about me, no matter what. Give us one more chance, Ruyan. I'll go back to school. I'll do it right this time. I'll handle all your treatments personally. Your mutism was almost cured when I first came back. Please, let me make it up to you. He was sobbing now, desperate and incoherent. Liu Ruyan simply sent a text on her phone. Within minutes, 2 teams of security guards rushed toward them. Orders received. President Liu. They didn't hesitate. No matter how much he fought, they peeled him away from her car. Right this way, ma'am. They held him back as she got in. Ruyan, you can't do this, he screamed, his knees giving out. I'm entering the competition too. If I win, will you talk to me? Liu Ruyan slammed her foot on the brake. She typed, I've made it clear. We are done. I already gave you the estate. Stop stalking me. And as for the competition, I won't let you steal what belongs to Boda ever again. I never expected the forum to be held in Jiang City after the lab incident. Everyone at the school knew I was the ex-husband of the Liu family heiress. People treated me differently. Some stayed away, while others tried to suck up to me. Only Shen Yuchu stayed the same. She never brought it up. I knew how she felt about me, but since she never said anything, I played dumb. When she offered to come with me to China, I turned her down. I wanted to reclaim my life on my own terms. Jiang City was my home too, and I wasn't going to hide forever. The competition was split into theory and a practical lab. The day before, the hospital director invited me to dinner. I expected a quiet chat, but every medical titan in the city was there. They were all discussing throat tumors in great detail. When the test topic turned out to be exactly that, I realized what was happening. Liu Ruyan was manipulating the results. She always got what she wanted. So, I handed in a blank page for the theory. And during the lab, I messed up every single step on purpose. Don't be like this. Just give me one more chance, please. I'm begging you. Ying Cheng's knees were like jelly. If it weren't for the 2 security guards holding him up, he would have collapsed to his knees right there. Ruyan, I'm entering this competition too. Just give me a chance, okay? If I win, can we at least talk? Hearing this, Liu Ruyan was about to floor the gas pedal, but she suddenly slammed on the brakes. She typed to Ying Cheng, I've already made the breakup clear. The estate has been transferred to your name. Stop stalking me. The phone screen glowed in the dim, underground garage. For this competition, I won't let you steal G. Boda's work again. I never expected this competition to be held in Jiang City. After the drama in the school lab, pretty much the whole faculty, Shen Yuchu included, knew the truth. I was the ex-husband of the only heir to a massive pharmaceutical empire. The way people looked at me shifted. Some kept their distance, afraid of the drama. Others tried to get close, hoping to score some benefit. But Shen Yuchu remained unchanged. We never even talked about it. We just went on as usual. I knew she had feelings for me, but since she never said anything, I acted like I didn't notice. We just stayed friends. For this trip back, Shen Yuchu offered to come with me, but I turned her down. I wanted to reclaim what I had lost on my own. My parents, my family and friends are all in Jiang City. I couldn't just stop going home. Because of Liu Ruyan, the competition was a 2-day event. Day 1 was the theory exam. Day 2 was the practical lab. The night before it started, the dean of Jiang City First Hospital called me privately. He made some small talk and invited me to dinner. I eventually agreed, but I didn't expect that. Along with the dean, nearly every big name in the medical world was there. No one made it awkward or focused too much on me. Instead, all these experts spent the dinner discussing one specific topic, from theory to practice. Almost every professor shared their insights. When I got the exam the next day, I realized why. The theme was exactly what those professors had discussed. Throat tumors. They were leaking the questions to me, on purpose. I went silent. I knew exactly who was behind this. Liu Ruyan. That's just who she is. If she wants something, she'll do whatever it takes to get it. I handed in a blank paper. I showed up for the second day's practical, but I purposefully made mistake after mistake. Even the proctors tried to nudge me back on track, but I acted like I didn't hear them. After leaving the hospital, I immediately booked a flight back to the US. This whole thing felt empty and tasteless. But seconds before I boarded the plane, the organizers called me. "Hello, Mr. G. Congrats on winning the gold award. It's a shame you left before the ceremony, but we'll mail the medal, certificate, and prize money to your address in the States." I found it laughably absurd. So this is what it feels like to be put on a pedestal. I just said, "No thanks," and boarded the flight. During those 10 hours, I kept thinking about how this was just one bizarre circus. Once I got back to campus, Shen Yuchu called. "Boda, do you remember Ying Cheng? The guy who stole your research before? He was in that competition too. I just heard. He filed a formal complaint with the organizer. He's accusing you of cheating to win. And he even posted your exam and lab videos online. Boda, tell me the truth. What happened? I know you're better than that. There is no way you could fail a basic throat tumor surgery." I scrolled through the medical forums where the complaint had been posted. It was pathetic. I never wanted to rely on anyone to get something that wasn't mine. Yet, here I was, back in the crosshairs. My phone buzzed right then. A text from an unknown number. "Gee, Boda, I'm so sorry. I didn't know it would end like this. I'll have Ying Cheng's forum post handled immediately. I promise it won't affect you. Just keep the award. I won't let anything change that. Trust me." It was Liu Ruyan. The whole world felt like a bad joke. That was my only thought. I still didn't reply. I called the organizers right away to tell them I didn't want the prize. I immediately faxed over a formal statement turning it down. Not long after, another text from Liu Ruyan came through. "Gee, Boda, I'm so sorry. I'll donate another set of equipment to your medical school. I've already ordered the Jiang City hospitals to redo the forum later this year. I'll make sure it's strictly monitored this time. Ying Cheng won't be able to interfere again." I looked at the text and just scoffed. After thinking it over, I finally replied, "I'm not remarrying you. Stay out of my life." I blocked her number immediately. Then, another text from a different number popped up. Still her. A wave of suffocation washed over me. It felt like there was a heavy weight on my chest. It was so exhausting. I stared at the stream of apologies and promises, mixed in with bank transfer alerts, and the dean asking me what was wrong. This used to be the kind of life I wanted, but now it's just a burden. It's just constant pressure. It's just pain. My only worry used to be how to win her over. Now, it's how to escape her suffocating control. I knew blocking her was useless. She has the power and the money to find me anywhere. Changing numbers is too easy for her. I'll never be truly free of her this way. I sat by the window and thought for a long time. I messaged Shen Yuchu to tell her I was fine and that I lost on purpose. Then, I unblocked Liu Ruyan on WeChat. "Book me a flight from the US back to Jiang City." I typed, "We need to settle this face to face." She took her time replying. I waited for several minutes, watching the typing status flicker on and off. Finally, she just said, "Okay." Next was a screenshot showing she chartered a private jet for me. I didn't overthink it. I just wanted to make things clear. My plan for the future is set. Finish my studies and become a doctor, whether that's in Jiang City, the States, or anywhere else. There's so much I want to do, so much I haven't seen. I'm not wasting another second on a woman who is already in my past. I'm finally over Liu Ruyan, graduate, and become a doctor, whether I go back to Jiang City or stay in the US, or anywhere else for that matter. I have too many things I haven't done, and too many sights I haven't seen. There's no way I'm wasting any more of my energy on a woman who is already in my past. Even if I did love her once, right now, I feel absolutely no attachment or care for Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan was already waiting at the airport early on. Her assistant told her that Ying Cheng had used some shady methods to get hold of Boda's exam paper and practical video from the competition. He even published them all on a highly authoritative medical forum. When she heard this, she felt all the blood in her body rush straight to her head. Even the hand holding her phone wouldn't stop shaking. What should she do? What could she do? It seemed like she had screwed things up yet again. Regardless of why Boda handed in a blank paper, or intentionally threw away the award. Maybe he was just doing it to spite her. Or maybe Liu Ruyan just couldn't figure out why. She kept checking her phone, desperately hoping to confirm if any new messages had come in from him. Unfortunately, there were none. President Liu, you cannot enter the runway to wait. Please wait at the arrivals area. The airport ground staff had already stopped her nearly 3 times today. After being rejected yet again, Liu Ruyan had no choice but to retreat to her spot, continuing to count every agonizing second. The plane landed close to 3 a.m., but Liu Ruyan didn't feel a hint of sleepiness. Even at 3 a.m., the airport was still full of passengers. Finally, amidst the bustling crowd, she spotted Boda. He didn't have any luggage with him, just a small carry-on bag. He clearly didn't plan on staying long. In just under a year, Boda looked like a completely different person. He used to always look drained and pale, but now, even wearing the simplest casual clothes, he looked radiant and full of life. I looked up and saw Liu Ruyan too, but at that moment, she didn't dare to approach. She stiffly raised her hand and forced the corners of her mouth into a weak smile. She mouthed the words, "Long time no see." Liu Ruyan felt like she had spoken aloud, but her voice was so quiet that I couldn't hear it. When I pushed through the crowd and walked toward her with a stony face, she felt as if the entire world had disappeared, leaving only the two of us. She slightly opened her arms, wanting to try and hug me, but I stopped when I was about a meter away from her. Liu Ruyan gave another self-deprecating smile and awkwardly dropped her hands. She led me out of the airport and onto her business van. The driver in the front seat didn't turn around, but just glanced in the rearview mirror and asked, "President Liu, where are we going?" Liu Ruyan panicked for a second, not knowing where we should go. She thought for a while before barely squeezing out an answer, saying, "Let's go home." The driver glanced at the rearview mirror again, and you could sense a hint of shock in his expression, wanting to ask which home. But seeing me, he instantly understood, just gave a slight nod and started the car. However, I spoke up. I said, "Liu Ruyan, don't bother." Liu Ruyan looked up into my clear eyes, which didn't even show much emotional fluctuation. I said, "Just drop me off at my place. It's about a 30-minute drive. That's enough time for us to talk." The light in Liu Ruyan's eyes dimmed instantly. She waved her hand, signaling the driver to follow my instructions. After the car merged smoothly onto the highway, I finally spoke. "Liu Ruyan, you should know I've already clearly rejected you. Why are you still bothering me?" Hearing this, Liu Ruyan's heart skipped a beat. She looked incredibly panicked. She pinched her lips, not knowing how to answer my question. She said, "About the forum. I'm sorry." The words practically burst out of her throat one by one. I turned my head to look at her. Liu Ruyan's expression was downcast. Her usual coldness and arrogance were long gone, replaced by an indescribable sadness and pain. I said, "I don't need your power to do anything for me. If there's anything I ever want or need, I will fight for it myself." My voice was steady, my tone flat. It seemed I was truly just here to make things clear. I said 3 years ago when I married you, I loved you, I wanted this. So I gave my all for you. I fought for your love. 3 years later, I'm divorcing you. I don't need your love anymore. So, I won't waste any more emotion on this relationship. This is my own choice right now. It has nothing to do with whether you love me now or not. Liu Ruyan, do you know what I hate most about you? I suddenly looked up, looking straight at her. Liu Ruyan was stunned, her mouth open, not knowing how to respond. "What I hate most is your ego. For the past 3 years, you've lived in your own world, stuck in the moment Yiting Cheng left. No matter how hard I tried, you never saw me. 3 years later, you're actually still just as selfish. So selfish that you want to keep someone who wants to be free, locked up by your side. What I want most is freedom. But because of your selfishness, you try to take it away. I wanted to win this forum, but I don't want to win like this. Because of your selfishness. I lost an award that was rightfully mine. Because of your selfishness. I'm being judged and second-guessed by everyone in the medical field. Maybe you can silence them for a while. But what about later? You and Yuan Cheng belong together. Because at your core, you are both selfish people. Your passionate pursuit of me now is just your selfishness talking. Because right now you selfishly just want me back. You never asked if I was willing, if I could, or if I needed it. Every sentence, every word, deeply struck Liu Ruyan. Her self-proclaimed love, regret, and deep affection were all stripped bare in this very moment. This illusion masked as love was exposed too quickly. Even she began to waver, wondering if she truly loved me, or if it was just her own selfishness and obsession. Ji Boda, I'm sorry. The forum was my fault. Liu Ruyan lowered her head, saying it word by word. She didn't ask me to stay. There seemed to be no reason left to keep me. We arrived at the Ji family's old house quickly. A 30-minute conversation wasn't exactly short, but it wasn't long either. The car pulled over to the side of the road. I unbuckled my seatbelt, ready to get out, but Liu Ruyan suddenly threw herself into my arms. Liu Ruyan hugged me like a precious treasure. Locking her arms tightly around my waist, she greedily breathed in the familiar scent on my neck. She said, "Could you be my attending doctor for my mutism? Can we start over? Give me a chance to be with you again, please." Liu Ruyan completely and clearly spoke those two sentences. I placed my hands on her shoulders and slowly pushed her away. Liu Ruyan didn't dare to stop me. "Ji Boda, can I contact you again?" Liu Ruyan held onto the van's door and still managed to ask this. I was about to walk through my front gate. Hearing this, my steps paused. I turned around and saw the sky in the east starting to turn white. Dawn was breaking. My mood lifted with the bright light of the sunrise. I said, "Liu Ruyan, don't contact me again.